Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking one of the most eerie, yet completely universal human experiences out there. It's this fascinating neurological illusion that takes a brand new moment and makes it feel strangely, almost impossibly old. Let's get right into it. Have you ever walked into a room you've absolutely never been in before, or maybe had a quick chat with a total stranger, and boom, you're hit with this sudden, overwhelming sensation that the exact situation you're in right now has already happened? We have all felt it, right? So what is it? A forgotten dream? A past life? Or is it just a glitch in the matrix of our minds that's been puzzling humanity for centuries? Well, the term itself, déjà vu, is French for already seen. But the defining scientific feature here is actually your brain's sudden awareness that this sense of familiarity is completely false. You feel like you've been there before, but you simultaneously know for a fact that it's impossible. It's that jarring, real-time clash between your feelings and your logic that makes the whole experience so incredibly strange.
Section 1. Who actually experiences this illusion?
Now, looking at the data, what's really interesting is the very specific pattern of who gets déjà vu the most. It heavily targets young, active people, especially those right in that 15 to 25 age bracket. Actually, as we get older, the frequency tends to drop off. It's also strongly linked to higher levels of education and income, and people who travel a lot, which, if you think about it, makes total sense from a scientific standpoint. If you're traveling constantly, you're throwing your brain into a nonstop stream of brand new environments, and that just bumps up the statistical chances of a memory glitch. Oh, and it's also super common in people who vividly remember their dreams, like lucid dreamers, and folks with generally broad, open perspectives on life. Moving on to Section 2, memory glitches and the leading scientific theories behind them. So, for centuries, people blamed this weird sensation on past lives or supernatural premonitions, but science points to something a bit more grounded. The first major explanation is called the split perception theory. Imagine you're driving and you just sort of glance out the window at a street scene while you're distracted. In that split second, your brain actually forms a very limited, unconscious memory of the area. A fraction of a second later, you look back, but this time with your full attention. Because your brain just wrote that distracted glance into your memory bank, it accidentally misinterprets your fresh, focused look as a distant, pre-existing memory. Basically, the timeline of your perception gets split, and the present feels exactly like the past. Another fascinating culprit is what neuroscientists call brain circuit dysfunction. Think of it like a routing error in your head. Normally, sensory information goes into a sort of short-term holding area before it gets processed and permanently saved into long-term memory. But sometimes there's a glitch. The new sensory information completely bypasses that short-term processing and writes directly to your long-term memory storage. Because it hits that long-term drive instantly, your brain is retrieving it at the exact same time it's perceiving it. It literally makes the present moment instantly feel like a memory from years ago. Section 3. The virtual reality experiment. To really test how spatial memory messes with us, researchers used virtual reality to build two seemingly completely different scenes. On the left, you've got a VR aquarium. On the right, a doctor's waiting room. But if you look closely at the underlying grid, the spatial layout is perfectly identical. They just swapped out the textures. Couches replaced fish tanks, carpet replaced floor tiles, but the geometric arrangement of the objects in that 3D space was a precise, exact copy from one room to the next. And when participants explored these novel VR rooms, an absolutely amazing thing happened. When they couldn't consciously recall the first scene, say they completely forgot about the aquarium, that hitting geometrical resemblance in the doctor's office severely spiked their feelings of déjà vu. The data showed a significantly higher probability of a déjà vu response when recognizing these configurally similar scenes. It essentially proves that the mere physical arrangement of objects in a room can trigger a powerful, false sense of familiarity, even if the objects themselves are 100% brand new to you. Which brings us to Section 4. Inside the brain, exploring the familiarity center. So the real mastermind here is the rhinal cortex, and specifically the entorhinal cortex. This is basically your brain's dedicated familiarity detector. Normally, this little region works in perfect harmony with the hippocampus, which is the part of your brain that actually stores the specific details of a memory. But during déjà vu, the entorhinal cortex misfires. It activates all on its own, completely bypassing the hippocampus. This leaves you with this strong, overwhelming sensation of familiarity, but absolutely zero ability to retrieve the specific memory because, well, the memory storage center was never actually turned on. Now for Section 5, the twist. Déjà vu versus déjà vécu. Let's look at how this builds into actual clinical pathology, because there is a fascinating distinction here. Everyday déjà vu is exactly what we've been talking about, a brief, fleeting disruption to low-level familiarity. But there's a much more intense version called déjà vécu, which translates to already lived. Déjà vu isn't just a passing feeling. It is a contextually richer, prolonged recollective hallucination. It involves intense mental time travel, where the person feels like they have literally lived through this exact moment in time already. To really understand how intense this can get, scientists extensively studied a woman known as patient MR. She has a highly specific lesion on a very precise part of her brain, that left lateral entorhinal cortex we just talked about. Because of this targeted damage, she experiences severe, prolonged episodes of déjà vu in connection with temporal lobe epilepsy. By studying her specific memory impairments, which selectively impacted her familiarity processing rather than strong recollective recall, researchers were able to definitively link that specific brain region directly to the intense, overwhelming experience of déjà vu. Patient MR actually bravely described her own experiences on a medical questionnaire. She wrote, "I seem to be in a dream world. Any activities seem familiar, while everything around me, reality, becomes unreal, unrecognized." That really captures the terrifying sensation of her seizures. She's essentially trapped in a waking dream, where her surroundings are overwhelmingly dripping with false familiarity, yet she feels entirely detached from actual reality. Section 6. Is déjà vu actually dangerous? So, for the vast majority of us, déjà vu is just a perfectly normal, entirely harmless quirk of the human brain. Nothing to worry about. However, there are a few specific warning signs. You should definitely consult a doctor if the sensation happens very frequently, like we're talking several times a month. It also becomes a medical concern if it's accompanied by hallucinations, abnormal memories, an irrational sense of excessive fear or a racing heart, unexplained weakness, trembling, confusion, or severe headaches. In those specific cases, it can actually precede temporal lobe epileptic seizures, severe migraines with auras, or even serve as an early sign of frontotemporal dementia in older individuals.
But again, for most people, experiencing a fleeting moment of false familiarity is really just a fascinating reminder of how complex our minds actually are. And it leaves us with a truly mysterious final thought. If the simple, hidden geometric arrangement of a room can completely hijack your brain's familiarity center, and if a tiny electrical misfire can instantly rewrite the present moment into the past, just how reliable is the reality you are experiencing right now? Keep questioning what you see, and thanks for exploring the mind with us in this explainer.